Good morning, homeschoolers. I'm in the kitchen making coffee, and the kids are getting started on their Bible. I wanted to get into our McGuffey spelling packets day 3. I'm going to finish up making my happiness in a cup and meet you in the schoolroom. Hello. All right, we're in the schoolroom. Of course, I always grab my dictionary and keep it close by when we're doing spelling. So I did get new spelling folders for my boys. I want to show you how they're set up while we're doing this. I can just tuck their spelling packet here that they're working on. Of course, this is my hangman game. I've talked about that before. But I like to have this little center section where I could punch in all of the lists. So I put in all the lists and all the spelling patterns that I have in the bundles. If you bought a bundle, I did just add in to a few of them. I think the upper level ones, the spelling patterns for suffixes. I just put some commonly used rules. The doubling rule, the dropping rule, the changing rule, and the protecting C rule. So I just put those in there because those might be helpful. And then this is something I haven't showed before. I only have these sentences fill-in packets for the bundles 1 and 2. Because I think older students are able to, or more progressed students are able to write their own sentences. But I made sentences for every single word, and it's just fill in. So you don't have to tell them, but it's in the same order as it's given at the top of the page, just in case that's something that if your child is working on this alone and really needs just to know what the word is and not to have to figure it out necessarily. That's up to you. But it is in order. So that's in there, and then I'll show you how we use it. This is going on day 3 of our spelling packet. And we're going to start with packet grade 1. Again, I'm just going to use grades 1, 3, and 6 to kind of see, you can kind of see the progression. You can see my printer didn't do the best job. So this one says, write words in a sentence or look up definitions and copy a few, right? So this would be a day that you could choose to, if they felt that they could write their own sentence, they could write their own sentence. If you wanted them to go to this, that's why this is color-coded in the yellow. You could do this that day instead of doing whatever this is. If you just have the packet and you don't have the sentences, then just use this. So you can help them write sentences. They can write their own. They can dictate to you, and then you can write the sentence, and then they can copy it. This was just to help people that wanted something quicker, because that can take a long time. And sometimes you're busy with other kids and stuff. You don't have time to sit there and dictate out sentences. You know what I mean? Or it says, or look up definitions and copy a few. So I'm not saying look up all the definitions. I'm just saying maybe 3 that they didn't know. So you can see today in my son's list. So we went through and, he was filling them in and just checking for spelling and stuff. And then, I would ask him, could you tell what this means by the sentence? And, if he couldn't, then we circled 3, pagan, racy, and penal. And we started looking them up. He looked up pagan, and I told him just to copy it down, which is so funny because he read it, but then he didn't actually copy it because you can tell how he spelled some, S-U-M, and then but somebody. He went B-U-T-Y, somebody. I think he meant to say has no religion. But he actually did spell religion right. He must have looked in the dictionary for that one. Anyways, then we had some other stuff to do, so we had to stop our spelling lesson for the day, so we didn't get to racy and penal. We might look those up another time. But there's been plenty of times when we just did that. We'd be like, okay, racy, what does that mean? And then we will go look up racy in the dictionary. I'm trying to get them to be quick, be good. I mean, the only way to get better at these skills, looking up things and alphabetizing is just to do them all the time. Racy, right there, racy. It's an adjective. You could say racier or raciest, right? And it is full of zest or vigor, having a strongly marked quality, like a racy flavor, risque, suggestive, racy jokes, having the distinctive quality of something in its original or most characteristic form. A synonym would be pungent, full of zest or vigor. So we tried to do something very simplified. So for that, I would probably just say exciting, because he knows what exciting means, you know, or vigorous. And I like them to know that it's an adjective. He knows that that's a word that describes a noun. And then if you didn't have those sentences, you could help them come up with their own using that. Like the park was a racy experience. I don't know. And I feel like I feel like the connotation in present times is like the risque, you know, definition, but they're just children, so keep it clean. They'll be old enough, they'll put it together eventually. Okay, so you could just look them up, or you could write a sentence, or do both, or if you're in grades 1 or 2 and you have the word sentence fill-in packet, you could use that as well. Okay, so grade 3 says write sentence with spelling words, look up definitions if needed. So now they're being asked to write the sentences, and if they don't know, you know, then they need to look it up, the definition, so they do know. So this is going to be a little bit this is a little a step up, right? Because it's asking them to put the word into context properly. And so you probably still want to keep eyes on this to make sure that they are using it correctly. Like the word regal, you know, I feel like most kids are probably not going to know what that word means, so they're going to need to look it up, and or even ask Alexa if they're allowed to. But the only way they'll get good at looking things up is just to have them do it. Just have them do it. It's slow going, but they get better at it, and they know they have to do this. In our house, we look up things multiple times a day. So they're just going to get good at it, and it's going to become second nature to them to grab the dictionary or grab the encyclopedia and look stuff up. Like I remember for years, I think it started in high school. I had a lit teacher that had us all buy a little small collegiate dictionary, and we just kept it with us all the time because we just constantly had to look up words as we were reading. But it was a really good habit. You just get really fast at it, and it doesn't bother you anymore. At first they don't like it. At first they're like, like they're, like, you know how the kids are. And then eventually they're just like, nope, okay, you know. I've seen improvement. I've seen it happen. Just take a breath when they're being annoying like that. Just take a breath. Remember, you were probably like that one time too. This is the disciplining phase, right? Okay, so grade 6. Where did it go to? It says, write spelling word sentences. Try changing the word's tense. Okay, so let's say, so we had that word racy, right? What if we changed that word to raciness? Okay. So we were like, I don't know if you guys can hear, the kids are like yelling off camera. The boy was invigorated by the amusement park's, I don't know, adventure, maybe spirit. of adventure and raciness. I guess it's not really a tense. I guess I just added a suffix to it. If your kid is doing this, maybe I should have said try changing the words ending. Because sometimes like racy doesn't necessarily have a tense because it's an adjective, right? It's not a, verbs have tenses but not adjectives. But what we're wanting them to do is to experiment with their spelling and suffixes and how that changes. So I did add to some of the bundles. And you can go into your TPT store and check your purchases and see if there's any updates, because I think that should show up. I did put in here spelling patterns for suffixes that I mentioned before. So for a base word that ends in Y, that would be the changing rule. So a base word ending in Y after a consonant changes Y to I before any suffix unless it begins with I, right? So like lady, you want to add the IES, right? You're going to drop that Y and add the IES, right? Whereas boys, it's not an IES to make that one plural. So you keep the Y, just add the S. Does that make sense? Okay, so so racy, something similar, right? We drop the Y because we're adding the I, right? Raciness. Okay, so that is day 3, right? So we are trying to use the words in context. We want to have an idea of what they mean, because knowing the meaning of words does help with spelling in general, especially when you start recognizing related words. It's super helpful. And then we want to start working on the endings, the suffixes. And that's level 6, but I have this in here, I think starting in level 2. I think I put it in bundle 2, but this is free in my TPT store as a standalone. I just added it in as a free item so I could just add it into the bundles without adding. TPT gives me a hard time about not about being too discounted so for my bundles. So that's how I could put it in there without making them make me raise the cost of the bundle. But so it's in there even if you have the first grade level and you want it or whatever. If you have a completely different list of words and you just want it, you can have it. Next, we will move on to day 4.